So if you go back in history a little bit, I guess when the first oil well was drilled, I'm just thinking, first oil well was drilled in Louisiana in 1901 in Jennings, Louisiana. That's where kind of the oil and gas industry started out in Louisiana. And then you fast forward a little bit, you go back into I think it's 1940 when they drilled the first. Of course, they had drilled some land wells already before that, but in 1940 they drilled, I think, the first offshore well. I'm not 100. I'm not a history buff, so but I mean, just going back a little bit of what I read over the past, and then it progressed from there. And I mean, there was so many so much happened in the oil and gas industry fairly quick, with the oil deposits. You started drilling for oil and gas, and this is where we are today. Of course, a lot of things took place in those times that since then until now, but we can probably talk about that a little later. How did it shape Terrebonne Parish? Well, I mentioned before, just a minute ago, that with the oil deposits, it created a lot of jobs, created a lot of companies to come in to service those jobs. A lot of people moved in. It created a lot of construction in homes, and the banking industry took off. Medical was already here, but you know, it that's pretty much how it shaped, with the oil and gas deposits that they had on land and offshore. That's where it all started. Well, for one thing, when they first started drilling, it was pretty much you got a drilling rig and you started drilling. But now, fast forwarding a little bit with safety and environmental, a lot of the products that they engineer now is a lot safer. Drilling is a lot more environmentally friendly, and got more efficient with the engineering of new products and new things that came out. And and we can talk little bit about the deep water drilling. With deep water drilling, I mean, it's fascinating with the design and the engineering of these products, where they're producing a lot of, a lot of the production is done below the surface of the water. They do a lot of things below the surface. And now you've got platforms that, with the efficiencies of the drilling they have now, one drilling rig now can take the place of maybe 10 or 15 back 30 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, maybe 10 years. But that's where I think the biggest change took place. Safety, environmental, and also the with deep water drilling. It's amazing how they do that. Yeah, I guess I came. Let's see, I came in 21 or 22 years after they drilled the first well. That was back in 1940. I came here in 1961, and I started. In, and I'm a graduate of Delgado Community College, right, technical school. I got interested in machine tool technology, and I went to work as a machinist in Houma, Louisiana in 1961. And I worked for the industry for 15 years before I went business for myself. But I'm not going to, but it just, I saw the advancement of technology in the machine tool department, in the machine tool area, to where we just kept improving and kept getting better and kept getting better. And we evolved around the oil and gas industry, really, is what we did. 90, that was 100% of our business. Of course, we're doing things now today. Fast forward a little bit, we're doing things today that we're going out into the other types of industries, semiconductor and aerospace, but we have a long way to go yet. The diversification is not easy, So I'm very familiar with the eddies of this. In 1979, 80, 81, that's when the industry started going down. And at that time, we had probably about 75, 80 employees. And by 1983, you know, when things change like that in the economy, and you gotta adjust yourself to the level of business you have. So we dropped from 75 employees just roughly to probably 18 employees. And those 18 employees were working 7 and 7. So it was a tough, challenging time, but you know, you just have to work through it and get down to the level of what the business business is at the time, and that's what it was in our particular business. It was 100% oil and gas. So.
Do you remember the economy at that time, how Terrebonne Parish looked and how, you know?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce at that time, and and a lot of things was happening, a lot of challenges for everyone. You know, they was having to cut. You know, when the economy goes down like that, you got to make a lot of. That's challenging for a lot of people that got to make decisions, business, government, and a lot of wages had to be cut. People had to be let go. A lot of consolidation. And even in our small service companies within Houma, you know, a lot of consolidation and a lot of things happening. That's challenging. That's probably the most challenging part that you have to do, is when you have to start adjusting your people, you know, the number of people you have, and we work through it, you know, God willing. We get through things sometimes that we think we're gonna end up, you know, with nothing, but nothing sometimes may be plenty. So. To education and infrastructure in your particular area sometimes need to be improved so much, and that takes a lot of people working hard to get that done, you know, and going forward a little bit, you know, that's what it's going to take if we're going to, in Terrebonne Parish, you know, what you had fishing industry, a lot of industries, fishing, farming, medical, banking, manufacturing. You know, we have very few manufacturing companies in our area. Yeah. I go back in time, we had 3 or 4 oil and gas service companies similar to what we have. You know, the service in the machining, and over the years, what impact the oil and gas made in that particular industry ended up with about 60 in just in our general area, you know, in the next 15, 20 years from 1970, so to speak. But now, you know, it's down again on account of what's going on in the oil and gas industry in the Gulf of Mexico. And I'm still have a lot of hope for that industry over the next 15, 20 years or so. I think it may not be as robust, but who knows what it's going to do, right? But what we see is it's not going to be as robust as it was, but it's still going to be a vital part of Terrebonne Parish. That's what I see going forward, you know. But as far as diversification goes, what you asked a while ago, as far as diversifying, that's not easy to do into other industries. It takes a lot of revenue, a lot of highly technical trained people, you know. And that's one thing that's challenging for us right now in our particular business. And it's challenging for everybody, really. You know, it's challenging for the medical industry. It's challenging for really everybody. So, and the main thing about diversification, to try to draw capital into your companies to come and look at your area to be able to move into. And manufacturing, people talk of manufacturing jobs, but you know, the first thing that start asking you is how you train your technical people. That's not, so I think there's a lot of innovative things we can do to improve on that, but it takes a lot of people coming together, putting their heads together to make it happen. You go back to the computer age, you know, and you go back to how everything is run nowadays is, if you don't keep up with it, you get left behind. And not only that, a lot of these machines, a lot of people don't realize were not developed and not put together in this country. We lost our manufacturing capabilities in that particular area. So we have to, 90+% of our machines are bought somewhere else besides in this country. So, you know, you just got to keep up with that technology and to do the machining processes and do them at the precision level you need to do them. If you don't keep up with it, you know, you can't do it. It's pretty, that's pretty much what it was. But that's how our business evolved. And we're constantly looking at new ways to do it. That's a constant in our business because it changes so much. And especially if you're going to diversify in other industries. And we got to start our own, we started our own training program in-house as well. So a lot of that type of stuff, technology, you know, you just got to keep on. We had a grocery store, me growing up. I didn't grow up in Terrebonne Parish. I grew up in St. James Parish along Highway 18 along Mississippi River there. And we had a Shell pump station in front of our grocery store. And I can remember the gas, a gallon was about 32 cents a gallon. But you know, and I started thinking about that and comparing that 32 cents to what it is today. At the prices that they are today, in my opinion, that's pretty cheap. People don't realize that. If you go to the grocery store and buy a gallon of drinking water, how much are you going to pay for it? If you go to the store and buy a gallon of milk, how much are you going to pay for it? And you compare that, I mean, you might not be comparing apple to apple, but if you think about it, 1 gallon of gas at $3.50 a gallon, not very expensive, especially where it gets you. Things. You know, we look at machine tools. When I first bought my first computer lathe back in 1979, 1980, it was a small machine, but I bought it for 35, 40, 50,000, something like that. That same machine today probably was 150, 200,000. And then as you get into the bigger ones, of course, you know some of the bigger ones we got, you know, $1.5 million, maybe more than that. But that's machine tools, you know. That's a big challenge for our business, capital expenses. Expenditures in our business is yeah. Industry, oil and gas probably came in with a more higher paying job, brought in a lot of people into the parish, you know. Going forward, and we talked a little bit about diversifying in the economy. A lot of people talk about the economy, what can you do to help economic development and all. Well, in my opinion, our economics in our parish is pretty well developed. That's just my personal opinion. Pretty well developed already. The question is, how do you diversify into other industries and draw capital into our area from manufacturing companies that may want to relocate and stuff? Well, when you, and I put the word tourism in there, and that was one of the things they talked a lot about in the 80s. Well, to increase tourism in your area, I think everybody knows that cosmetics means a lot. How you build stuff, you know, how consistent, you know, make things look, lack of a better word, pretty, or whatever, you know, your environment, you know, you got to spend money there doing that if you're going to get tourism in there, right? When you go look at a place, first thing you know is the cosmetics, or how good it looks, you know, so the next thing is infrastructure. We don't have we got a 4-lane passing by us over there, right? But we don't have anything, what is that, east or west? Going, you know, like,
Major highway.
say from, yeah, major highways, like coming into Houma, you got 2-lane, you know, and you have trouble getting in the 2-lane. I mean, into Houma right now on a 2-lane, and we talked about a 4-lane, you know, and I think everybody's doing what they can, you know, government-wise and all to make it happen for also to leave out, because that's the first thing people learn. Well, if I want to retire here, all right, and a hurricane's coming, you know, and I need to get out, I'm gonna get out of here. You know, people a little further south, that's where we're having trouble. Now, we kind of like on the end of the road, right? I know they talk about the expression, you're kind of on the end of the road. So we got to be very innovative if we're going to keep things, you know, interest. And education, you know, is another thing. You got to be innovative in education. You know, and I kind of wrote something down, and I got, you know, we need leaders to spark discussions, you know, to explore new approaches, right? Or re-explore old ones and inspire creative thinking. And it should come from the heart. And with the will of God, we're gonna be good in Terrebonne Parish.
I like that.
And that's pretty much, you know, if you do all those things, you do everything right in the right way, you know, we're gonna be okay. And the gasoline engine is 350. So going back several years when we started, like you said, we were always trying to diversify. We were reading up on that, so we started looking at semiconductor companies. Well, that's almost an understatement. Your people is your key to your success. And we got to do all we can to train them and to continue training them and have them continued education, especially in our industry, because of the change. And it happens pretty quick sometimes too. You know, things are basically done pretty much the same way, but they did it in a different way. You know, they got to change the way that different way is. And but to answer that question, that's an easy question. You know, it wouldn't be for your employees. You know, you just got to hire people smarter than you, and you're gonna be all right.